How you doing? I'm Michael Bell, the voice of Duke.
Hi, this is Adrienne Palicki, Lady J from G.I. Joe.
Hey there, it's Rachel Nichols, aka Scarlet.
And if you're listening...
And you're listening to...
And you are listening to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe with Greg and Jaren.
Yo, Joe!
Got my G.I. Joes, got my comic books, watching cartoon episodes. Watch me go and box, dead stop, Jaren on his toes. Watch me go and lock a whole new world you never know. On my freaking block, on my block, anything Joe's. Roll my badger into work today. Yes, sir, no, sir. I can't call this work today. I'm too clutch. Ain't no pun intended. Call me sir today. Check the prices out. My collection feeling bird today. Anything Joe.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe. My name is Greg Engel.
And I'm Jaren Decker.
And we'll be your host today. Today on Anything Joe's, we're going to get caught up on some G.I. Joe classified reveals, which is something that you perpetually have to report on if you want to stay on top of it. And we're behind, so let's get right into it. We'll start with stuff that we've seen in hand now at this point. Some of the stuff we've talked about digitally, some of the stuff is just a minor glow up. But regardless, we want to talk about them because this is, the last step before we have them in hand. First thing I have up is the new retro series that's coming out. The retro series, of course, is just infamously repaints of characters that you've already paid for, and now they look even better, so you have to pay for them again. This first one, however, I think is definitely a needed one. It's the retro Mindbender. If you didn't get a Mindbender before because he was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, or maybe you didn't want to pay the price for a deluxe set, now's your chance to get one, just the bare bones. Looking at this without comparing it to the other Mindbender who I've not seen in a bit, the only thing that really stands out are his wrist guards. I don't know if the other Mindbender has those, but it really jumps out at me. And they've changed the cape because I guess that's one complaint they did here is that the cape was rubbing off on Mindbender's shoulders permanently. Otherwise, he looks pretty much the same. Great chance for somebody to pick him up if they passed or missed him, or they're waiting to find a good deal. The stuff that he comes with is certainly not essential. And although I don't know if this qualifies, if you did buy it, I don't know if this is enough of a change to credit buying him again, but I don't know. I mean, yes, obviously I'm going to get him. I'm getting them all, but I'm not super worked up about it.
I'm going to be real honest with you, Greg. There's not really any difference I can tell.
Maybe it's
I
just
think
the lighting.
He's got it's a lighter shade of pink, it looks like. Or purple, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
It looks, and then on his boots, do you see the silver on the knee part of his boots?
Mm-hmm.
It's black on the figure that I have. So,
okay.
I don't know if you're going to have a photo up or not, but it does not look that different. And then face looks the same. He comes with those same guns, and I'm guessing that version just doesn't have the extra pieces.
Yeah.
So, not a lot different. I mean, the best thing about it is just that we're going to get a Mindbender back out there for people that didn't want to pay the insane markups on one. So,
yeah,
that's good at least.
I would agree. In terms of, if you're not going to repaint him, at the very least, make it be somebody that's more accessible to collectors. So, yeah, I mean, it's good for the people that missed it. But everybody, other than the cape, there's nothing. Although, I will say, the flaw of the cape is pretty significant. So, I'm not too turned off by that. All right, who's next? It's Retro Rock and Roll.
Heck yeah.
Hey, this Rock and Roll doesn't have any tattoos on him. I just now noticed that. I haven't looked at
I
these.
thought he looked a little boring.
I think you mean he looks a little bit more like his real self. His outfit is just straight up OG green. It really is truly supposed to be just the original design, and so I'm here for that. I've pitched before that if you're going to do these, that the first version should be significantly different. Especially if you can make him look just like this, the way that this his regular, yes, bland but still authentic self. If they're going to keep doing this, I don't want to hark on this point, but they really should make the first version very much, significantly different. The rock and roll that we have, I'm not going to say is significantly different, but they took some chances with it. Like, he's got different color scheme going on, the tattoos and all that. I'm fine with it if you give me a version like this. I do think those versions should be more like Resolute era or Renegades era, like what those designs would look like, and then just throw it back to the originals. These are not spaced out so far apart anymore that it really bothers me, like those old Tiger Force Bazooka and Rakondos did, where I waited like 6-8 months before I got the original one in my hand. So yes, obviously a little bit more of a simplified approach, but I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is I want this version of all the OG 13s, and then after that, I don't care. Whatever you do with the other version I'll still buy. I mean, I like the modernization, but I like the vintageization also. Thoughts on retro rock and roll other than it's bland?
I like this version, but I also like that this is different than the one that's coming. It's not like the Mindbender, which is just maybe a different shade of purple, you know. Mm-hmm. But I mean, obviously, once again, I get why they did that with the Mindbender. But like, they occupy two different parts of your team, and so you'll be able to recreate your original 13 with this new version, or you'll be able to have kind of an updated, more original, a classified version of him, which fits with the new comic series, I guess. So,
yeah,
you'll have a rock and roll for everybody.
Yeah, I agree, right? There's there's a bit of an audience. There's different types of collectors, so there's a bunch of different things going on where you're trying to appeal to different people. People that didn't buy the first one because it didn't look close enough to the original. People like me that'll buy them both regardless. The Mindbender, they're hoping to scoop up people that passed on it for San Diego Comic-Con. So it's a lot of different stuff. It's not everything's for all of. I mean, I'm not expected to like it all, and I've accepted that. But anyway, I'm glad they made this. Hey, real quick, looking at this shot, what do you think this little like clear piece that's beneath their base? What do you think that is? It looks like they're.
I think they just use that for the show. I think they just use that for like a stand. I don't think that's anything that'll be with them.
I think it speaks to how much the stand still needs some work then. If you can't ship it independently and you need a stand for your stand. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, the third and final retro part of this wave is a retro Viper. I think that you can't really go wrong with the big troop builders, and I'm not, in my new philosophy of just kind of buying one of each, at this rate, I'll still end up with 5 pretty similar Vipers. This one the gloves on this one seem very stand outish. Maybe the red is just brighter than normal, but it really seems like that's the big thing that makes them look different. We've seen this Viper multiple times already, so I'm already kind of like losing track of what belongs to what. But I do like this. I don't, it doesn't. I'm not encouraged to buy multiples of these. I'm not doing that anymore, or very, very rarely, I should say. And I've got enough Vipers already that another one really isn't doing anything for me. But at the same time, this figure's still more useful to me than a retro Mindbender, because you can never have too many Vipers. You can always find something to do with or display them with. I do like this one. I would have to see it in hand to say if I like it the best, because they all change very minimally. But my first impressions on this is that yes, it looks good. The gloves are huge, but they do add a lot of character. Like, they make it look more Viper-y, for lack of a better word.
So, I mean, I like it. I really like every Viper that we've gotten so far. I think that the accessories look cool because you have one that kind of harkens back to the original release, with that like really light gray tone on it, but then there's also a painted rifle that comes with it with a little bit more detail, so I like that. I love the left hand that they've included. It looks huge, don't get me wrong, it looks like an absolute mitt, but it is nice because that's always the problem that I have with a lot of these figures, is like trying to get that other hand on there. You're taking the hand and you're like prying it and stabbing the gun in there, so
yeah, definitely.
That kind of hand is a really handy thing to have.
Oh Lord.
But I will probably, I'll probably get one of this one. This is one that I'll probably get one of and have him as just like a, I don't know, a specialist. He'll be my one Viper, like my one Techno Viper.
I know for a fact you already own at least one other Viper, so that's not gonna fly.
Well, he'll be my one red-handed Viper.
Okay.
He'll be some subset.
All right, so moving into other physical releases that we've seen at this point, just not necessarily part of the retro wave. Here's the Saw Viper. Buddy, I don't like this figure. I don't know if we talked about the digital reveal on this or not, but
I don't remember. I think this is the first time I've heard your thoughts on it. I'm excited.
I think so as well. And it's really hard for me to place what I don't like about it. Lots of people have had lots of things to say about the fact that he comes with a chainsaw, and that's not the Saw Viper. The Saw part of Saw Viper stands for like semi-automatic weapon or something like that. He is very well known for having a very specific gun that he killed a lot of Joes with, and this does not look like that gun. And the saw on it's almost like Jaren's dad joke from 30 seconds ago. It just seems like a hat on top of a hat, basically. Like it's not really necessary. This guy, they've done a lot of right things with him. He's heavily armored, and I think it's that bulkiness that kind of tears me away from the vintage Saw Viper. I'm just not used to seeing him this like bulky. The original Saw Viper, both the vintage figure and in the comic, is a pretty slim dude, considering how much like armor I guess he's supposed to be wearing. So Hasbro has leaned into the more realistic part of the military aspect of this, I think, and said this guy would have to be like really heavily armored to get away with what he's trying to do. So it's just not clicking for me. I don't have anything specifically that is just like a huge turnoff. Even the little goofy saw, I'm just like, well, whatever. But as an overall, this is not working for me. I would have rather them tried to make the exact Saw Viper. Speaking of Vipers that there only seem to be one of, Jaren, it's been a contested concept that the Saw Viper that killed the G.I. Joes was the only one, because he's so prominent. Or it's more confusion, because we know for a fact in multiple sources that there are more than one Saw Viper. It's just rare to see a Viper that's as good at his job as this one particular one was. In later continuities, or in alternate stories at this time, is that particular Saw Viper would go on to become Overkill, who is like a part man, part cyborg, kind of like the leader of the Bats. He was in the Bad cartoon, but doesn't have a lot of stable continuity. And that was a cool idea, I think. This was in the Devil's Due run that's been since like written out of history. It's like rewritten now, but it still was a cool concept. I have no reason to believe this Saw Viper is supposed to be that Saw Viper, but he doesn't look like it. He doesn't look like a Saw Viper. What are your thoughts on him?
So, I mean, obviously I'm going to love him because you don't like him.
Sure.
But,
it's pretty much a given.
No, I mean, I do understand. I think that, at least from some of the photos, it looks like that saw is removable, so that'll be good for everyone. Mm-hmm. It looks like it just kind of pops off and you can use it as like its own weapon or just not have it on there. Also, this is one of the few ones that I'm like, I didn't need a unmasked helmet. I don't need to see his black ski mask.
Yeah, that seems like a waste.
It doesn't do that much for me, and it's just going to make it to where I have to try not to lose his helmet if it ever does come off, which I don't know if we've talked about it. My kids have been getting in here so much more, so it's like every time I come down here, there's toys everywhere, which is great, but I'm like, you can't lose pieces.
It's great. It's great to a point.
Yeah, so... no, I like him. I really do. I like the design, but I don't have that tie to him. So I'm not like, oh, he looks too different. I'm just like, hey, this is a big dude. He's got a gun, and he's also got a saw on it. Yeah. And yeah, he's good. They're bad at naming because, hey, this guy has a saw. He's the Saw Viper. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah, mixed reactions overall. Maybe I'll feel differently when it's in hand, but right now where it's trending, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. There's lots of better stuff out there. Okay. Next physical reveal. It's Leatherneck. Is that right? Or Leatherhead? It's Leatherhead. Right? No, it is Leatherneck. Sorry. I am always confusing Leatherhead and Leatherneck. One of them is the guy that you're looking at on the screen right now, and the other is the crocodile that fights the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's from the Bayou,
okay.
yes. This is Leatherneck. Yes. So I have to say that there's some problem. People had some problems with this. They're like got his rank wrong. I think on his little insignia. I had seen that, and but the version that I'm looking at here, I think, is pretty solid. This is a figure that, much like a lot of figures from this era, where they're starting to give them a little bit more originality, but they're still kind of like, you see this with Footloose also. We've seen this with other characters. Airborne, I think, was another example where there's nothing really about it that like jumps out at you. It's just like green fatigues. He's got a vest. It's pretty by the book, but it does look very, very good. I think it looks a lot like him. I think that head mold is also pretty good. It's always a little bit of an uncanny valley with this stuff because we're making very, almost hyper realistic 3D portraits of these characters that we've never really seen with this level of detail. So I'm always a little bit like, oh, is that what he looks like? I've imagined him differently kind of my whole life, but I really don't have any complaints about it. I think this looks solid overall. The interchangeable hands are a nice touch. The gun is a classic M16, and that's what he's known for coming with. The hat is removable, which is a big deal for me. This is a good figure. It's more appealing than some of the other figures of this type where the outfit is just a little standard, I guess.
The one thing that I'm tired of is glasses. I don't need glasses. They're going to be lost.
Yeah. He doesn't.
Like,
it doesn't make sense.
Like if a character needs glasses, just go ahead and mold it on their face.
Well, let's not do that.
I can't stand the little glasses that never sit right. They're always like one ear up, or they get lost and they fall off, and I don't know. I mean, granted, don't do it like you used to do on the Baroness and the first Roadblock, or
they have like little plugs.
Roadblock. Yeah, didn't like that either. So I don't know.
Don't
do anything, but do everything. Okay, make me happy, but don't do it wrong.
Make me happy,
That's
and also everyone
asking.
else.
Yeah. I don't know, but no. I mean, this one's fine. This is to me. It's like, yeah. I guess I just don't like when it's like they're starting to get originality, because it's just like, it's another dude. I'm sorry. He's a dude.
I do like.
He does have a great mustache, though.
To talk about your glasses point, I would really just rather them not include glasses with figures that don't come with them or are not like inclined to have them. There's really no indicator that he would have had glasses at any point. And yes, obviously they'll get lost. I really just want them to figure out a way to get them to stay on their head when they're on there, because sometimes they work okay and sometimes it's a complete loss.
And if you're doing it for like a realism sake, if you're gonna have eye pro, you better have ear pro. So don't give me glasses unless you're gonna give me big old headphones, baby.
Yeah, I am interested in getting this figure. I think he's a key member to have on the team. I would not have wanted him to be pushed off any later. They just put a figure of him out with that Sergeant Slaughter Triple T transforming cup. And so that's also got me kind of like, he's kind of in my, I'm thinking about him as a character a little bit more than normal, because I have a toy of him that's new. So yes, I'm interested in it. I'll be excited to have this figure. Next up, Dial Tone. Now, even though Dial Tone is from the same era as Leatherhead, I have to say that this outfit really does, like, really hits it really crushes it. Like, it looks good. The color scheme is not the same, like, olive, like military green. So he stands out a little bit there. The head sculpt in this shot looks great. It is really, really well done and extremely detailed. The backpack with that's his like communicator thing looks good, even though it's got him up towards his eyeball, and I'm assuming it's something he speaks into, but I might be wrong about that, because that's just how I use it as a kid. Is it supposed to be his head? I mean, it's Dial Tone. He's a communications expert. I thought this is his gigantic radio, But seeing it here, where he's using it as like a Boba Fett style flip down sensor thing, that's got me questioning the way I've played with this toy my entire life. Has one of those little like microphone like enhanced things, so he can listen to something at great distances. I think maybe Bullhorn came with one of these originally. Makes sense, is a good idea. Yeah, this figure's very good. I really like the layout, the textures of it, like the way the vest and his pants have a different like feel to it, the way that they're designed. This looks really good, man. This would have been an easy figure to flop, and it would have been just as basic and dull looking as a lot of the other figures that have been coming out. Just like there's nothing about it that grabs you, but this figure really nails it. This is 2 figures in a row that I'm actually questioning what a retro version would look like, because these are so on the mark. I like this a lot. I'm very excited for this figure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Actually, I love the design of this figure.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Leatherneck like doesn't, like, to me looks a little standard. This guy has enough that is different. Maybe it's because of how iconic his backpack and everything is. Like, it changes the way he looks fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like top tier, knocked it out of the park. I think the head sculpt is great. The accessories all seem like different and unique. That gun, his rifle that he has like a camera on top with like a printed screen on it.
Yeah,
it looks
saw that.
sick.
That's dope.
Like, I think that is such a cool touch. The paint apps on this are really good. They could have went really lazy and just, made like there's like a radio or something like on a pouch on his thigh, and they actually painted that instead of just making it one brown blob. They have different paint apps on his backpack. Even the little visor that comes down into his eye, it's like silver, and then there's like a brown spot, and then silver again.
Yeah,
it's like really good job on this figure.
Yeah, have to agree. High marks all around. Really challenging assignment, excellent execution. Really good job, Hasbro guys. I'm talking to y'all. Those of you that didn't get fired. All right, last up from this panel reveal is the physical in-hand Zandar. We had both said pretty high praise about this figure from the digital reveal. I'm happy to tell you that that's going to carry right over into the actual physical reveal. Looks really, really, really good. I do see the potential for the retro figure here, though, because the blue on this is much darker than it should be. His blue is very, very light, like sky blue almost. His face is a little too friendly looking. Also, I would critique that, but the overall design is great. I like the little gold on the end of one of his boots, and he's got the more I say more recent, but just like not vintage Dreadnoks logo as his belt buckle. We've seen, they showed a picture of kind of what it was going to look like underneath that armor piece with the lightning bolt tattoo, and although I can't pull it right into my memory, I remember approving. Yeah, overall this is good. It's not perfect for the reasons I just listed, but none of that deters me from being excited for this figure. I do wish he was not so. He looks so charmingly happy to be on part of the Dreadnoks. He's not a grumper at all. It looks like they gave him gauged ears also. He's got circles where his ears are, or his earlobes are. That's an interesting touch. Yeah, I'm all in for this. I think this figure looks very good, and minor dislikes aside, this is still a great figure. Will be very, very fun to have in hand. A character we don't get to see much at all. One per generation. One vintage figure, one modern figure, finally one classified figure.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. This is probably the one I'm most anticipating. I get all of your critiques. I'm not saying you're wrong in any way. But to me, I'm making my universe where this guy is like he has a punk rock cover band, and only 3 people might listen to it, but he pours his heart and soul into it. So I love this figure. I will probably end up taking most of the armor, like the shoulder armor off.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the neck, the pink thing around his neck, I don't know, the ascot or whatever you want to call
scarf.
it. But yeah. But no, I love this figure. I think I do agree he does got a very, very soft face. He looks like he's been sheltered from the Dreadnoks. Like he just kind of comes and hangs out, but doesn't really get to do anything. So no, but this is at least probably for the ones that are close to coming out. This is number one for me, like of most anticipated figures.
He looks like a millionaire playboy that like couldn't get into the college that he wanted, and so he decided to slum it and to really make his mom and dad mad for not paying his tuition.
Instead of backpacking across Europe, he backpacked across Louisiana. And just got stuck.
So I'm excited for this figure. Looks very, very good. Is a real win for an underrated character. All right, last two physical reveals before we get into the digitals. These are kind of at the tail end of it, and they announced them at the same time. It's Heavy Duty and the Cobra Trench Viper with Cobra Modular Fortification. Let's talk about Heavy Duty first, because I'm not ready to turn into this base yet. So up until this point, we'd just been using that really badly made roadblock as a Heavy Duty, and it worked perfectly fine. So imagine my surprise when they decided that they were going to go all in and actually make the real deal one. He looks very good. Heavy Duty's kind of a goofy character, and so I respect the way that they tackled this. His, even right down to his lime green backwards hat, like, and his ripped off sleeves, like everything about Heavy Duty that is really like iconic from his figure is represented here. Heavy Duty's vintage figure comes with a very obnoxious weapon that he holds out in front of him, and it fires big missiles, and you don't even know how he would ever be able to lift it off the ground to begin with. They've given him some stability here. Now he kind of wears it like almost like a alien's harness device, so it goes over his shoulders. That makes sense. It would help him elevate and aim. It's got these tiny little like metalhead sized firing missiles, as well as two guns that come out. This is a real surprise for me. Not only a figure that I didn't really think we would see anytime soon, but a figure that they did really, really well. Heavy Duty's face is a little bit of a... We haven't seen a lot of Heavy Duty, so there's no real like library of books to be like, this is what he's supposed to look like. So I'm looking at this and going, yeah, sure, it looks as much like Heavy Duty as this figure from 1990 whenever did. Like there's, yeah, you know what I mean? He's reaching like a War Machine level in terms of this, all this stuff that he's carrying with him. That you can't really see it very well in this picture, but he's got like a big gold chain on too. I love it. I'm impressed. A figure that I don't have a lot of love for, but I do really like what they're doing with this.
Yeah, I was kind of content to just use that roadblock for my Heavy Duty because I didn't really care. But looking at this, I'm like, okay, this is actually like pretty sweet. I don't know how much I'll use his big old aliens,
harness thing,
War Machine harness thing, just because it's a lot. I mean, that is a lot. And he actually looks really good without it. Like, there's photos of him without it, and he looks really good. I think having the hat is a great touch. And is it... Now, I don't know. Is it... Okay, so it does look like it's just an alternate head, not just a hat piece.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I was trying to look at it and see. It now, I might be wrong on that, but it looks like there is a head without a hat on, so I would assume that means it's a separate piece. But
I wonder why.
I have been wrong before.
I wonder why that they thought that was the course of action, unless they just couldn't get the hat to stay the way they wanted it to.
I get with that little bit, if you're doing like the snapback part would probably break.
You're probably right.
Quite a bit, because normally the helmets have, they're pretty solid, or the hats are pretty solid. So I don't know, but I like it. I think it looks great. I will definitely pick him up. I do like the paint apps on a lot of it. Like there's the photo of it from like behind where it says like man portable heavy weapon system, and then there's like I don't know if it's a radio or what, but there's like some paint apps underneath there that look really cool. Mm-hmm. So like that's the kind of stuff I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like maybe it'll be cool and like to set up with him, even if he's not wearing it. But I think this is a figure that like I had no expectations for when they did the name reveal. I was like, whatever. But now, like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like this, they really knocked it out of the park on this.
Yeah, I agree. His like front panel on that big harness is like all scuffed up, where it's like deflected bullets or whatever. Yeah, I'm into all that. This is a surprise. I'm sure that there are some people out there that are really like excited for this. It's such a weird. This is from like that kind of weird bubble of G.I. Joe where there's not as many fans, but the fans that are there are like hardcore dedicated fans. So I'm happy for them. I'm excited. This is a good figure. Yeah, it's an interesting figure.
And it looks like he does not have tattoos. So
wow,
chalk
shocker!
One up in the Greg column.
Finally, somebody heard my call. I'm surprised because I feel like he looks like the type of character that they would have put a bunch of tattoos on right away.
Yeah, really thought they would have done neck tattoos, face tattoos, all that.
That leads me into the actual trench or the actual modular fortification itself. So this is the first like baby playset basically that we've gotten that I can think of, and they've made it in a way where I guess based on this picture they are hoping that you'll buy several of them and then you can build a little structure out of it. But there's absolutely no way I'm going to do that because these are probably what, $50 each. Like this is the type of stuff. This is the type of stuff that you look for on clearance, if at all possible, for these parts. And I guess that would lend into my other point that if you find a good use for the Trench Viper as parts, then picking up multiples of these would maybe go a longer way. You could build like a little team of Trench Vipers and put them, like Firefly's, demo squad or something like that. In this image, I don't really like how it's. Maybe they just didn't assemble it correctly, but like look on the roof, there's like gaps in between every building. The wall, the floors aren't connecting. It looks pretty rough if this is any indicator of how it's supposed to collect. But as a single piece, it looks fine. I don't think it's any. I don't know. It doesn't do much for me. I like the idea of building in like little structures, but if you were going to build something like this, why not build the Cobra Battle Bunker, the little circular dome? It wouldn't have been. Yeah. It wouldn't have been. It didn't have to be any larger than this, or you could have built it like in fourths. So if you buy 4 of them, you'd have the whole dome, or in half. So you buy 2 and you get 1 full bunker, which is something that then the vintage people did as well. The vintage Mobile Battle Bunker, you'd buy multiples of them and kind of make it bigger. Anyway, here's just a couple of great free ideas that the community would love. I just take them and throw them in the trash, I guess.
So if you look through some of these photos, there's one of it like almost looks like storming the beach at Normandy, like from the beach perspective. Okay. If you scroll through, I think that makes it look kind of cool. I could see it as like a cool like background of like a display piece. It does still look very much like, big gaping holes in it when you use it other than its regular box shape.
Those are there. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes.
So you got to get
for the low price of $600, you too can build this Cobra wall with the occasional logo on it. Lights don't work, by the way, so you can understand that there's a little bit of discrepancy between what we would like and what we're actually getting. Looks like these from the front, these have like buckles on them, so I'm guessing that's how they want to present the image that they are attaching together, but it looks pretty rough. They should have made it so they would really just click right in and be a much bigger base somehow. I feel like that wasn't thought out quite well enough. So bottom line, one of them, okay, it's not going to do much for me, but I'll throw it in the case in the back somewhere. It'll add the tiniest bit of flavor. But in bulk, get lost, guys. There's no way I'm not buying in on that. Even the one, I'm just like...
I disagree. I like it from a temporary bunker structure. Even though it's got big gaping holes. I think it's kind of fun.
It's just too small, man. It only holds one guy. It's not like these sandbags are about the only other thing in that mounted gun, or the only other thing that's going to present the illusion that there's anything going on. It looks more like Cobra put a phone booth up in the middle of the city instead of they're trying to stake a claim somewhere. Multiples of these shots, man, they've got this spotlight lit up, and it really would look a lot cooler
Yeah.
if it actually did that. I know the price would probably.
It's a good thing we have a friend that does that
right.
stuff. Maybe
Good thing
we'll
we
have to hit him up.
know Barkley, who's an expert at making things light up that aren't supposed to. Yeah. So.
Always another chance to just go.
Like I said, I'll get one of these, but I'm not pumped for this. I think this is a little off base, and especially to have a repaint like this with it, I'm just like, it doesn't really appeal to me on either level. But it's fine. I mean, it's like there's way worse things out there. Okay, that is going to wrap up our physical reveals. We're going to get into the digital reveals and see what's coming down the pipeline. Let's start with.
Oh, I can't wait to hear your opinions on this one, Greg.
So, this is conflicting, okay? Because typically, Hasbro does not lean into the cartoon mythology much at all when they're making their toys. And so I'm wondering if they are responding to what the general audience has been responding to, which is Super 7's work, which is all cartoon exclusive stuff. I can't think of any other reason why we would suddenly have a mass device labeled Snake Eyes with Polar Bear. This very specific figure is from a very specific scene in the G.I. Joe miniseries where Snake Eyes picks up a radioactive isotope and gets himself irradiated, which is why all his hands are pink. And there's also a polar bear attack that I think that's when the shaman shows up and takes him back to his little hut to free him. It's an extremely small part of the episode overall. And so I'm kind of at a loss as to why the polar bear is a thing. Like, you would be reenacting a 5-second scene from a cartoon episode, from 30 years ago. And I'm just like, is that really what people are into? It's just, dude, you hear me complain when Road Pig comes with an animal that he didn't come with originally. Like, I'm just like, they're just trying to balk up the price because now everybody comes with an animal. And I feel like this is even more of that. What am I going to do with this polar bear when I'm not reenacting this 5-second scene from this G.I. Joe miniseries? I mean, just like, it's so random. I don't even have a snow, like, I don't have a, I mean, okay, we've got Snow Job and we've got the Snow Serpents, but I'm just like, there's no Iceberg or Sub-Zero. There's not a lot of snow people overall to throw these guys in with. It seems like a waste, man. I'm just, like, I don't want to be negative about it, but this just doesn't really make sense to me. Also, the fact that, like, 3 pairs of his 4 pairs of hands are irradiated is also kind of like, I don't think he's throwing a lot of karate chops when he's got radiation running through his body enough to turn him translucent pink. So, like, that doesn't seem like it's a fair value as well. Now, I will say that the Snake Eyes figure looks good. Is a very, like, cartoon look, except they didn't make him quite as purple as he shows up in those. And that's fine, because I think it's a little much in the cartoon. And also he has parts of the mass device. Like I'm guessing that's what the logo branding is for. Is not only are they referencing the mass device, but you get little pieces that lend itself to the bigger mythology of the mass device story. I do like that a lot. So, 50-50 is probably too strong. I'm probably like 40-60, 44 at 60 against it. I just know that I'm paying a lot of money for this polar bear that has interchangeable parts. It doesn't need it at all. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, so I'm going to need you to tell me, so does he, like, shoot the polar bear with, like, an arrow or something? Why does he have, like, a different shoulder? Like, you see what I'm talking about? Like, that little bit of his shoulder that looks like it pops off, and then there's 2 little black lines.
He does not shoot him with the arrows, so I'm not really sure what that's about.
Guess we'll find out when we get it. I don't understand what that is.
The trapper, like, shoos him away with, like a stun rifle, basically. So I don't really know why he's got arrows in his keister, especially considering that Snake Eyes doesn't come with anything that would fire an arrow. So I really don't know what it's referencing. If you know what this is referencing, please leave us a comment or send us an email. Because I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe he comes back in a later episode.
That's okay.
Any other thoughts on this?
Well, I'm actually super pumped for the polar bear. They'll say that.
Of course you are.
I love getting the animals, but my son loves animals, so we get to play with the little action figures of the animals. So
My kid loves the animals too, but the problem is that for what I'm paying for this animal, I could buy her like a dozen of also articulated animals that she'd be perfectly fine with.
I'm honestly, I'll just buy your bear from you. That way you can eat the cost. Because I couldn't care less about another Snake Eyes with pink hands.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with Snake Eyes. This is for a while until they make a Dawn or a Throwdown or somebody that we just haven't seen at all. Next up in digital reveals, it's Blowtorch. Other than just the Dreadnought Torch, I don't think we've gotten. This is our first like flamethrower guy. Obviously, they wouldn't make Charbroil before him, but I'm still surprised it took them this long. Maybe because they pumped out literal dozens of them in the modern line. This guy got repainted so many times towards the end of the modern line that it's actually sickening to look at him now. This is actually a pretty good digital reveal. I like all of the armor pieces with all the ports on it. Obviously, he comes with, you guessed it, a flamethrower, and practically so, it comes with actual flame effects that I'm really into. Not only does he have the full like fire in effect, he's also got fire that's kind of like, I guess on a surface, it's like flat at the bottom. And then there's kind of like pilot light fire, which I think is really cool. That's a really cool look when you're, you don't want to always be spitting out fire, but it still gives the realistic image that it is an actual flamethrower that he's got. We'll get more into this when we get into physical reveals. I don't like spending too much time on digital reveals because I've learned that things change significantly. But I'll just say from what I'm seeing here, especially for a figure that we've got very tired of seeing, I'm really into it. I'm guessing this is the only shot we have, so we don't know if that mask comes off, but I'm optimistic that it will. We do not normally get an unmasked Blowtorch, and he did unmask quite a bit in the cartoon, so I'm hoping they lean into that when we see it.
Yeah, I don't have really much to add. I feel the same thing. I saw someone comment and said it looks like he's got a bunch of beer can tops attached to his hockey gear. That made me chuckle. But I do hope that they do a unmasked head, because that will make this figure useful to me. The reason why I don't use barbecue is because I'm like he's just a dude. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah,
it's just a dude.
Firefighter is a tough position to fill on your military force when you're picking people to be on your side. I see a lot of people in the comments saying that they're going to wait on the retro version, which surprises me because historically the retro version would just be colored differently. They don't make substantial changes, so I'm not really sure what that would change to.
It does look like Full Force says that we can confirm that both Blowtorch and the Frag Viper have removable helmets.
That's awesome. Maybe not so much for Frag Viper because he's just going to have a mask underneath, I'm sure. But for Blowtorch, that's a big win. Absolutely. It's a big deal for me. We'll see. We'll follow up when we get a physical, but I like where this is headed. I'm not sure what all the hate's about. He's not a very complicated character, and this pretty much is, he's not a very...
No, but he needs to be on the team, too.
Yeah, I want everybody, so it's all the same. So, speaking of the Frag Viper, we'll skip to that now, since this is a pretty good, this is one of the later year Vipers, kind of like in the mid to late run from the vintage line. And I think it looks very good. I do not use the Frag Viper a lot. I don't use specialized Vipers much at all, if I'm being honest. This is a figure that I had as a kid. I really liked the gimmick. The gimmick, of course, is that he has like a gigantic lacrosse stick or whatever. I don't know what they call those hooks that you wear on your hand that you throw croquet balls off or whatever.
I was wondering what that was. I was very confused as to what the heck that shape thing was.
The vintage figures were, they're grenades. They put the grenade in the hook and then they just chuck it across the battlefield using that, which is really cool.
That's pretty cool.
They've modernized they're not just flat out grenades anymore. They're like some kind of modern explosive device. And they've actually included a little smoke trail on one, so you can actually have him like flinging one in action, which I think is a great idea. I think that'll look super cool. And the color is right. The like little the little sash that he wears across his torso is good. He's even got that like brown like turtleneck, like I don't know, all the cloth and design of this looks how I would want it to look. The helmet is spot on. Just all looks really good. Yeah, I'm into this. For a character that I would not normally like get super worked up about, I'm actually really pleased with what this looks like. I am unclear on what this large thing on the left-hand side is. It looks like a skeleton, like a vertebrae, you know what I mean? Or spine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
I feel like it looks like it like connects to the backpack and the weapon.
Oh, maybe
like
you're
the
right.
Launcher.
Maybe
and like it powers it or something. I don't know.
I would be interested in learning more about that. I've always just taken the Frag Viper for what he is at face value. Is he puts a grenade in the little thingy and then he chucks it. But the idea that it could be electronically powered to somehow further propel that explosive device is, you got my attention. That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I love this figure. I think one of my favorite things about it that's so underrated is just the coloring on his suit, the two-tone.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a minor difference in the shades, but it really makes it pop.
Yes, I fully agree.
I really like this figure. I love the helmet too. I think it's a great design. Can't wait to see what it actually looks like in person. Once it's actually physically in hand. So this one, yeah, I'm gonna have to pick one of these up.
Yeah, I'm interested in this one as well. Good work. All right, our last one is drawing back to our previous discussion about Joes that are wearing very basic level, military outfit. It's Footloose. So I don't know where I read this, but some very funny person said, hey, every time Hasbro's decided to make a Star Wars figure of Pedro Pascal, it looks like crap. When they decide to not make one, it looks just like him. And that's very accurate. This has got a strong Pedro Pascal digital workup vibe. Let me start with what I do like. The design of the figure is perfectly fine. I've said many times just in this episode alone that there's nothing really eye-grabbing about Footloose's outfit, and this captures that correctly. It's very basic gear. That's fine. It is what it is. Footloose's weapon assortment is pretty solid. The machine gun, the pistol, the knife, the backpack, I'm with all that. This big rocket launcher, which is reminiscent of the thing that you probably never played with as a kid. You just slung it over his arm because those straps were a solid piece of plastic and you couldn't really navigate around them very well. They've supersized that. Now he has a gigantic actual bazooka that goes with it. I'm not in love with that and probably won't use it at all. I never Footloose is an infantry man. I just gave him a regular infantry gun. Helmet looks spot on. I mean, the detail, it looks great. On the old Footloose and Claymore helmets, they have just three leaves, leaf, and on one of them it's painted, on one of them the other. Here we've moved to full on accurate, what actual camo would look like. What this actual helmet would kind of look like. It's very well detailed. I hope that carries over. But there's no way I'm going to be able to give him a pass on this face. This face is really, really, really different than any Footloose I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not going to say it's a deal breaker. Maybe it'll look better with the helmet on and it'll take away from it a little bit. But almost everything about the face just doesn't click with me. I don't know, Footloose is a character that's in the cartoon a lot. And so I think about that, the way that face looks, and it does not look anywhere close to this. And that's what I would want it to look like. I want it to look like the cartoon version, but but not like a cartoon. I know that's probably it's probably much harder than it sounds, but yeah. I wish that the knees still had the camo on it. I don't know why they've just blanked that out, but it's good. Needs some work from here to final version, but overall, I think the groundwork is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I it's a figure. I will probably eventually get it because it's the first one we've got of him. But there's nothing that I'm oh, I need to get this figure. I'll get him. I'll be like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll put him on my shelf, and then he'll stay there.
Yeah, a little bland, but as we've seen before, digital to physical reveals could change substantially.
Yep.
All right, last up, not technically a Joe, but still part of the Joe series. It's the is this part of the 50th anniversary thing, I guess, or is this just a one-off?
60th?
60th anniversary Firefighter. Wasn't expecting this for sure.
So it looks like behind it, it says Legacy Collection. Has that been the branding that they've put on any of the other 60th? Have we just missed those?
I'm going to say yes, because on the Action Marine Sniper, it actually has a very similar logo, but it's a 60th anniversary logo. So that does beg the question.
That means they're going to do more?
Yeah, I guess that the question is either, is this separate from the 60th anniversary set, and this is a continuing line, or something else? I mean, there's not really a figure for them to draw this off of from a 60th anniversary standpoint, but from the, just so, I'm guessing this is, something that's kind of a new, something else they're going to try. It's basically, they're just like, let's make some regular people to fill the G.I. Joe universe. Like, if we get this and we get a cop or we get a first responder, you know what I mean? Like, it's actually an easy way to be like, we're not making Joes, but we are still making stuff that's labeled G.I. Joe to buy, you know, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, and
I think it's cool because you'll have people that'll be able to get this for maybe people in their life that are firemen or whatever, and be like, hey, look, this is pretty, like, it's a cool little thing. Or kids whose parents are firefighters, like, you know, maybe that's their gateway drug into getting Joes. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I have no issue with it. I'm just, I guess I was trying to be a little bit more like, I'm studying the Hasbro business practices aggressively, and I feel like this is just a tactic to be like, here's some other figures that we can make that they'll buy if we put the G.I. Joe logo on them. But from a G.I. Joe collecting standpoint, yes, these are awesome. Not just because these type of people would be around, you know, all over the universe, but you're breaching that line between actually making just like civilian figures, just people that you can use in the universe for whatever, you know, for whatever purpose. For if we make police people and all that, then eventually you can start to really go somewhere with your diorama stuff and keep it all in house. Basically, you would be using all G.I. Joe figures to build a whole actual world with, you know, secondary first responders and victims and all, you know, everything you can need to tell your story, essentially, which is something that we don't. You mean, if you want a civilian character that's a G.I. Joe character, you got to build one. They're not just going to make, you know, Johnny Victor who stays at home and watches TV all day. That's not a very exciting figure. But I do think the Legacy Collection could open up doors for that, where if you got like again, like somebody that does hospital work, it would come with somebody that's sick as a patient, right? And then from there, suddenly you've got a lot more characters in your G.I. Joe universe to kind of play around with. So I'm into this. I would like to see these stream down a little bit. I don't want deluxe juniors of all of these figures, especially because the way that I'm approaching it is I'm making filler in my universe. I would like to get multiples and be able to use them. I don't want to have to buy all this extra junk to go with it. But I love this concept of the Legacy Collection. And I'll be interested in seeing how this figure does in terms of sales and what they decide to go with I'm assuming it's not going to be a one-off. They're going to make more. I'm interested in seeing what the more is exactly. What else we'll get in this line.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that they do the different heads. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But it really does help, because if you get two, you have two that are different looking instead of just two identical guys.
Yep, absolutely.
And then with the different gear, you can really make a whole group of them. Like, I mean, my action soldiers I've got, I don't even remember how many I have right now, but they all look different because they gave you different options to use.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of thing. I hope they keep doing that. Like, that's on, like, the 60th collection, and these are like right up my alley. Like, I love what they're doing with them. So give me a police officer, give me a doctor, a nurse, a paramedic, whatever you want to do. Like, I think it'd be pretty cool.
At the very least, I would be interested in seeing those options available at a retail level, so I can choose some to build up on my own. That might be a risk on Hasbro's part, but it's something that I would be interested in.
And even if they wanted to do like a Pulse exclusive or something, if they didn't want to send them out, like even in limited quantity, I think that certainly is something that people would, at least like the core group of us like collectors that are involved in this community as much as we are, I think we'd probably be able to at least buy some of them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that's going to do it for our classified coverage for this week. We're actually caught up for the next 2 minutes until something else gets announced.
By the time this posts, it'll be outdated.
Probably. Nemesis Enforcer is in the mail, so I'll have that in hand by the next time we sit down and talk. I'm very excited to get my hands on this figure and see if it's really lives up to the hype. And we got a lot of other stuff coming in too that we're going to talk about in hand. And of course, the Dragonfly's right around the corner. You can expect full coverage from that from us. That's one of the few big things that we're both getting. Yeah, that's it. You can reach us on social media at Twitter or Instagram under Anything Joe's Pod. You can also email us directly to anythingjoespod@gmail.com or anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. If you have seen these waves and have thoughts about them, figures that you're going to pick up, figures that you're thinking to pass on, thoughts on the legacy line, stuff you got in the mail recently, whatever you got, we're interested in hearing it. Feel free to drop us a line and let us know what's going on with your collecting life right now. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back in 2 short weeks where anything's available for discussion here on Anything Joe.
He's the guy with the headset, ready to go. Dial tones on the light, turn down the radio. A little nerdy, yeah, not the toughest in the ranks. When you need a little help, he's the one calling tanks. Fixing radio signals clear, he's a communication pro. Give him a broken gadget, then kick back and watch the show.